into next week and pattern change arrives. Liz, we'll see you again at 5 o'clock.
All right. Thank you, Lee.
Good.
In entertainment news, a new Diane Sawyer special explores the final years of the late fitness guru Richard Simmons before his death in 2024.
And state reporter Joel Gargiulo joining us live to tell us more about the ABC special entitled The Mystery of Richard Simmons. He had such a following at one point in his career.
No, he did. And like for me personally, I can't help but smile when I say the name Richard Simmons. I think about a lot of moments I actually shared with my dad watching these infomercials. You know, you think about the shorts, the sequence, the personality, sweat into the oldies, of course. However, in the last 10 years of his life, he vanished from the public without any explanation. Well, we now know prior to his passing, he did reach out to Diane Sawyer, ready to speak. So this special now looks different than originally planned, and now Diane Sawyer is sharing the untold story of Richard Simmons and his final years.
Where in the world is Richard Simmons?
The sudden news.
Fitness guru Richard Simmons has died.
This is the first time I'm talking about it.
What made you guys say, let's do this?
Started for me in an unusual way, which I got a phone call from Richard Simmons, who's been in hiding for 10 solid years. He decides that he wants to tell his story. The whole world is eager to hear it. He sent me flowers saying, I trust you. We're getting ready to go out and do it. And he dies. I felt that there was a whole mystery that we had to try to solve. 10 years. It's one thing to go in for a year or two and rest. It wasn't that. Something else was taking hold.
Do you feel like you have those answers?
I feel we've got a lot of clues to what was going on. We all have to intuit what it is to have been Richard Simmons, a little boy bullied horribly. He was not like the other little boys in any way, which is what we loved when we finally got to meet him. When you go back and see that whole arc of his life, and you realize that there are some wounds that don't heal. So we're going to let everybody watch and decide if maybe that's what was happening. He had been a lot of pain. Went in search of everybody who got inside the house so we could put together the mosaic. Of course, we talked to his wonderful brother and his sister-in-law, and then his housekeepers talking for the first time about those final days and hours of his life.
When I came here, then I saw him on the floor.
You know, I think when people hear the name Richard Simmons, there's an image that comes to mind. You don't understand what the human being was like. In your conversations with him, what did you learn?
There he was up against Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jane Fonda, and he said, I'm just a potato, but I've got a mission to get everyone of every size to believe in themselves enough to get back to health.
What questions do you wish you got the opportunity to ask him?
I think there's such an interesting thing that happens to some shy people who, after they become so famous and go back inside, maybe the sense of isolation compounds, and your ability to feel the giant love waiting for you on the other side of the door evaporates. I would love to know, did he not understand that his fans would have turned out for him anytime, any place, any age? His life will not come again.
You're going to be just fine. The Mystery of Richard Simmons, a Diane Sawyer special, premieres tomorrow at 9 right here on Channel 7.
So interesting to hear the other side, that he may have not even been aware of the love that was out there for him.
I know, we were talking about it earlier by your desks, and I was just saying, like, I think that he was someone, this is what I got from the special, that gave so much of himself, his energy to everybody else, and maybe just he needed a little time to himself, but it sounds like he was preparing for a comeback. And it's a great special. I can't wait for everyone to see it.
And I like that when you met him the first time,
Saved me. He saved my buns.
He helped you out.
Richard Simmons saved my buns on an assignment a long time ago. Yeah. Thanks, friends.
Thanks, Joelle. Well, an amazing display of heroism by the NYPD. See the moment officers saved a woman who was threatening to jump from a high-rise building in Brooklyn.
And I'm Mike Morrison. Here's what's coming up on Eyewitness News at 5. New details today after that deadly drive-by shooting that played out in Paterson, New Jersey. And the clock is now ticking on what could be the Long Island Railroad's first strike in more than 30 years. What you need to know in order to keep your commute on track. Those stories and more coming up next at 5.
David Muir, the most trusted anchor in America, the most watched anchor in America. Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Muir the #1 newscast in America. And thank you for making Eyewitness News the #1 most trusted newscast in